Spear and Fang are heartbroken after watching Mira be taken away across the sea. Determined to save her, Spear begins frantically swimming in the boat's direction, but struggles to stay above the surface, eventually washing up back on the beach. Spear doesn't give up, as he begins chopping down multiple trees to construct a crude raft. By the next morning, the raft is ready to sail, but Fang is less than eager to step aboard. That is until Spear lures her on using some large bugs. The duo uses the momentum from the waves to travel a great distance. Next, Spear begins to paddle the raft as it slows down. After an extended period of pushing the raft, he climbs back on, exhausted from the laborious task. Fang eventually steps in and uses her large, thick tail to propel the raft until she too tires from the journey. The two rest during the night, where hundreds of shooting stars can be seen falling behind them. Sea creatures like jellyfish and a herd of whales swim past under a lunar eclipse. Come morning, they have no food and must scour the ocean, but are unable to find even a single fish. Later in the day, a largely hidden creature swims past, causing Spear to dive in after it, only to discover it is a giant sea turtle. He tries to strangle it to death, which proves to be ineffective, until he forces it to the surface right by Fang, who scores a lethal bite on its neck. They feast on the turtle's carcass, and even use its shell and some of its bones to construct a shelter. In an approaching storm, their flying fish haul is interrupted by pterodactyl-like creatures and a massive shark who destroys the raft, throwing them both into the increasingly choppy seas. Spear ends up in the shark's mouth, but frees himself by stabbing it with a broken piece of the raft. The enormous waves caused by the storm begin thrashing the two around. Spear continues to use raft debris to attack the giant shark, and jabbed the sharp wood right into its eye. This victory is short-lived, however, as the raging tides batter them. Fang washes up on an entirely new beach, alone and unconscious. She becomes mobile quickly and frantically searches the beach for her friend, but to no avail. She roars in frustration and desperation. Since washing up on a new beach, Fang continues to wait in case Spear washes up. A crackling noise from the forest behind her attracts her attention, and she goes to investigate. On her way, she mistakes a mossy branch for Spear, then sees another dinosaur-shaped object run past, prompting her to search around a large rock formation. She discovers a fresh set of unfamiliar tracks and encounters a red Tyrannosaurus, but he runs off. She follows the rocks, but is unable to find the new dinosaur. Elsewhere, Spear has washed up on the same island, but nowhere near where Fang did. A trio of humanoid figures approaches him and carries him off the beach, heading inland. Fang and Red are competing to hunt an Arsinoitherium, and whilst both are successful in catching it, Red submits and releases the catch before turning to walk away. Fang throws a chunk of meat his way before the two share their catch. Spear wakes up completely submerged in mud in a strange hut. As he goes to move, he experiences a sudden sharp pain in his right arm. As he stands back up, a one-eyed woman startles him, causing him to knock over some bottles and starting a small purple fire. He is quickly pursued through a village by a small horde of warriors, who he is able to single-handedly defeat. Eventually, they corner him in a ruined house, but the leader intervenes and provides Spear some food and water, thereby proving they mean him no harm. Meanwhile, Fang and Red travel together and find a fruit tree and begin eating from it. Some fruits on the ground have fermented, however, and after consuming a large amount of the fermented fruits, the two become intoxicated. Back in the village, Spear's wounds are being treated by the local healer. He blows a pink powder in his face, putting him to sleep. Deeper into the forest, Red and Fang are continuing to bond, while Spear is invited into the leader's home. Red and Fang find a cliff to sleep on for the night, while Spear manages to bond with a local village dog. The following morning, Red leads Fang through the mist through a series of spiked wooden posts before revealing the Celtic village. Red begins attacking local villagers, and Fang joins in, only for Spear to emerge from a house to see her with a pair of legs dangling from her mouth. Red goes to charge at Spear, though Fang blocks him from doing so, and Spear halts more locals from attacking. Unaware that Red and Fang have bonded, he jumps on her back, only to be thrown off, but also saved from being attacked further by Red. A tense three-way standoff begins, before quickly erupting into full-on combat. Fang is knocked out by flying debris, preventing her from interfering with the fight, which only becomes more intense, as the villagers soon join in on Spear's side against the dinosaur. Multiple houses are destroyed, including the healing woman's house, which causes a small explosion, launching Spear and Red to their final battleground. Spear is wounded many times by Red, and even comes close to being killed by him, but Fang once again saves him. Fang defeats Red by giving him a powerful jump kick into some spiky wooden debris, fatally skewering him. Fang seems almost regretful for him, and even comforts Red as he bleeds to death. A wounded Spear witnesses this, and he too becomes saddened of the whole ordeal, although perhaps for different reasons. The chief speaks to Spear, but he leaves with a visibly depressed Fang back into the forest. A rainstorm arrives in the forest as Spear and Fang are still with events from the village. The duo wanders through the forest for a short while before finding a cave to rest in and shelter from the storm. Inside the cave, Spear lights a fire and discovers the cave is deeper than it first appeared. He lights a torch and finds an elaborate series of wall paintings depicting many humanoid forms, dinosaurs, and mammals. He studies them for a moment and compares his hand to some prints on the wall before returning to sleep by the fire. In the morning, Spear goes for a peaceful walk through the forest until he stops at the edge of some plains. He imagines some events depicted on the cave walls in front of him, such as a male human raising his hand at him. As he continues to wander the plains, he finds the ruins of a long-abandoned village and imagines the people that could have lived there and what they could have been doing while they lived there. He brings back a full deer to Fang to try and get her to move, but this does nothing. Spear wakes up in the middle of the night and is drawn outside by the moon. He remembers Mira praying to the moon and mimics the gestures she made while praying, though he does not understand what the purpose of it is. Spear is distracted by an owl watching him and scares it off. Later in the night, he and Fang are awakened by a bear carrying an axe-wielding Viking and are forced to abandon the cave, which is collapsing from the bear and dinosaur roars. Once outside, Spear and Fang encounter a second Viking, riding a bear of his own, but carrying a sword instead of an axe. After taking down both bears and the second Viking, the first Viking raises his axe and gives a battle cry, before pulling out a round wooden shield which bears a red scorpion symbol. Upon seeing the symbol, Spear immediately calls out Mira's name, which causes the warrior to drop his axe and shield and flee into the woods. Spear picks up the shield, mounts Fang, and the duo chase after their enemy, with Spear managing to injure his foe by throwing his titular weapon through his leg. Spear recovers his weapon and demands to know where Mira is from the Viking. The warrior instead pulls out a sword. Fang picks him up with her jaws and snaps him in half. Spear takes the Viking's sword for himself, as well as its scabbard. He and Fang then notice a bear print nearby and set off searching for Mira once more. The duo make a break through the vast countryside and make much progress in the day. Their journey eventually deposits them on high ground overlooking a small Viking village. Spear scouts the village from this vantage point, but must leave Fang behind to maintain his stealthy advantage. Creeping through the village, he is able to locate the shack, which is housing Mira and many more captives. Mira and Spear greet each other once more and set the slaves free. As they are walking back through the village, however, roars and growls can be heard from the mist. Spear, knowing what threat lies beyond, narrows his eyes and prepares for a fight. Spear prepares to face a group of bear riders emerging from the mist. The party's leader recognizes the sword Spear wields as belonging to a fallen Viking warrior. The riders draw their weapons in advance, but the bears detect a greater threat in Fang. Fang kills the leader, triggering a brutal fight. Mira and the other slaves seize the chance to escape. As the chaos spreads, more Vikings awaken. Rika, a Viking woman, emerges from her home with her child to lead the defense. Spear slaughters multiple Vikings with his sword, while from a rooftop, Mira spots a potential escape route through the woods. She grabs a spear from a rack. The villagers surround Spear with a shield wall. Rika's child, positioned on a rooftop, fires arrows at him. Mira kills a bear with her spear, takes the rider's axe, and decapitates her as her first act of violence. More Vikings and archers join the fight. Spear breaks free from the shield wall, killing several attackers, and throws one into Rika's child, knocking him down. Rika enters the fray, throwing a large axe into Fang's leg and stabbing her in the snout with a spear. Fang retaliates by seizing Rika's legs in her jaws and smashing her into the ground repeatedly until she dies. Distraught, Rika's child leaps onto Spear's back. Spear throws him off into a rock, killing him instantly. Shocked by the accidental killing, Spear rejoins Fang as a thick red mist engulfs the village, allowing them to slip away. Their escape is blocked by a sheer cliff, leaving them exposed to Viking arrows. Cornered, Spear and Fang go on the offensive, using the mist to slaughter their pursuers. Once all the Vikings are dead, they join Mira at the docks and flee aboard a Viking boat. Later, another boat arrives carrying slaves and 2 Vikings, the chieftain and his eldest son, Eldar. They call out to the village but receive no response. Docking, they find a blood trail and notice a missing boat. Investigating, they discover a corpse surrounded by crows. As the mist clears, the chieftain sees the massacre's aftermath. Frantically calling for Rika, he searches their dwelling and finds her body where Fang killed her. He weeps over her before Eldar arrives, carrying the body of his younger sibling. The two embrace, mourning the destruction of their tribe. With the village burning, they collect the corpses, wrap them, and place them in a tomb sealed with a large rock. Returning to their boat, they release their slaves to make room for the bodies of Rika and the child. They set sail, preparing to cremate the dead at sea. The chieftain readies a flaming arrow but cannot fire it, overcome with grief. Eldar takes the bow and completes the ritual, setting the ship ablaze. Their duty to the dead fulfilled, the chieftain and Eldar don heavy armor and set out on a journey of vengeance. Spear wakes aboard the ship he, Mira, and Fang had stolen from the Viking village. Mira tends to Fang's injuries as well. Their respite is cut short when the Viking chieftain and his son Eldar ambush them, seeking revenge for their village's destruction. A fierce battle erupts. Spear fights the chieftain, while Mira shields Fang from Eldar's arrows. Spear knocks the chieftain's helmet off, and Fang overpowers Eldar. The fight halts when the two ships collide and crash into jagged shoreline rocks. Their ship splits in half. Mira steers the enemy ship to shore, avoiding disaster. The chieftain and Eldar resume their attack until Fang grabs Eldar and throws him overboard. The chief dives in after his son. Spear notices their ship's hull is damaged and taking on water. Mira lands the vessel safely and, with Spear and Fang's help, anchors it to a tree. On shore, Fang begins behaving erratically, sniffing the forest before building a nest. Spear recalls her grief over Red's death and realizes she is preparing to lay eggs, filling him with joy. He gathers nest padding while Fang works. Meanwhile, the chieftain rescues Eldar from the river, and they tend to their wounds before camping for the night. The chieftain has visions of Rika's death and a horned figure. Eldar returns with a deer, which they cook, stirring the chieftain's memory of family meals and sibling rivalry between his sons. Tearful, he goes to the river for solace, but is startled by a vulture. This inspires him to target their nest. In the forest, Fang lays 3 blue eggs, while Spear and Mira watch. When Spear tries to touch one, Fang knocks him away. At the cliffs above the river, the chieftain and Eldar climb towards the vulture's nest. Eldar leaps onto a bird mid-flight, while the chieftain ropes another, gaining control. They take to the skies in search of their enemies. Back at Fang's nest, Spear fishes for her, and Mira repairs the boat. The Vikings arrive on their vulture mounts. Spear and Fang defend the eggs, while Mira provides bow cover. Eldar's bird seizes Mira and ascends, but she grabs its claw to avoid falling, then swings onto its back. She forces it to descend by pulling its neck ropes despite Eldar's attacks. Spear forces the chieftain's mount to take off, engaging him in mid-air combat. Mira and Eldar's fight continues until she drops onto Spear's bird as it passes beneath her. Spear and the chieftain trade blows before Spear bites his hand, then throws him from the vulture into the forest. The chieftain survives the fall, but Spear kicks Eldar from the bird, killing him on impact. Grief-stricken, the chieftain drifts into the river, carried away. With their attackers gone, Mira and Spear return to Fang on the vultures. Spear approaches her nest, and when Fang lowers her head, he embraces her. The Viking chieftain washes ashore from the river, bleeding to death. 3 beautiful women descend from the sky to take him away, but from his blood pool, pairs of red arms emerge, pulling him into a hole and down a tunnel. He crashes in an underworld of magma, where similar creatures toss dead Vikings into the lava. At the top of stairs, he finds a gigantic horned figure on a throne. The floor cracks beneath him, revealing Eldar's body drifting in magma. The horned creature conjures a fireball, showing Spear and Fang, offering the chieftain another chance at vengeance. He accepts, engulfed in flames, transforming into a dark, fiery being. Elsewhere, Spear sits on the beach while Mira tends to Fang, curled around her new eggs. Spear tries moving the eggs, but Fang refuses. He and Mira attempt to relocate them into the boat as Mira lures Fang with meat while Spear takes the eggs. Fang catches Spear and forces him to return them, but discovers one missing, but Mira has it. Before tensions escalate, Fang sees Spear and Mira building a nest in the boat. She then brings her other 2 eggs and settles in. They sail into the ocean, resting peacefully under a night sky. Fang spots something faint in the fog, but ignores it. In the morning, Spear fishes, then notices a massive ship emerging from the fog. 3 smaller vessels grapple their boat. Spear readies his spear and shield. Mira climbs the mast with her bow, and Fang protects the eggs in her mouth. The enemy ships ram them, releasing Egyptian warriors. Spear and Mira fight them, but another boat delivers a towering Egyptian named Kamau. Spear's attack fails, and Mira's arrows barely harm him. And Fang engages. Kamau punches her snout, causing her to drop the eggs. One smashes, killing the unborn dinosaur. Shocked, Fang attacks Kamau, with Spear and Mira joining in. The fight stops when the Egyptian queen appears holding the remaining eggs, backed by an army. Their boat is burned as they're taken aboard the Egyptians' massive ship, the Colossus. Inside the ship city, Spear and Fang are jailed in adjacent cells. Kamau is also imprisoned, revealing he too is a captive. Kamau shows regret over the broken egg. Mira is locked in another cell with young women, sitting in despair. Later, Egyptians attempt to shackle Fang with a giant restraint. One clamps it onto her ankle. Spear aids her through the bars, but the queen threatens to smash an egg, forcing Spear to calm Fang and obey. Mira sees smaller boats in the fog, rowed by slaves, with Spear, Fang, Kamau, and soldiers aboard. The boats approach a Babylonian kingdom, coming under arrow fire. The soldiers, along with Kamau, Spear, and Fang, are released to fight in an invasion. They face Babylonian troops with war elephants. Spear mounts Fang, and together they cut through soldiers and elephants. Spear climbs the fortress wall, defeating defenders, while Fang aids Egyptians in battering the gates. The gates fall, and the Babylonian king arrives with guards. Spear and Fang roar in triumph at breaching the fortress. In a forested area, the Viking chieftain emerges from the ground in a transformed state, now able to conjure weapons from fire and walk across water without being extinguished. Back in Babylon, the Egyptian queen and her soldiers revel in the spoils of victory, as gold, weapons, jewelry, and treasures taken from the captured Babylonian king. The queen, clearly pleased, orders the king executed by having a spear thrust through his back and out his chest. She allows the battered and arrow-pierced Kamau a brief, tender moment with his daughter, who is held hostage to ensure his obedience. Fang remains visibly angry at the queen for stealing her eggs, but calms slightly under Spear's coaxing. Soon after, Spear, Fang, and Keil are forced into more campaigns, plundering distant lands, a Qing dynasty city in the Far East, an early Slavic settlement, and a Greco-Roman city. After each battle, the trio return to the Colosseus wounded and tend to their injuries in a large bathing room. The Colosseus then comes under attack from a Philistine naval army. Despite fierce oppositions, the Philistines are defeated by Fang's aggressive charge, Spear's agility and reflexes, Keil's brute strength, and the Egyptians' ballista-fired cannonballs. The enemy vessel is set ablaze and sinks, while the Colosseus sails on. One night, Spear is awakened by music from the queen's throne room. The queen, seemingly unimpressed, watches a dancing girl perform. The captured Philistine king is held under guard near a balcony. Guards then bring Mira. Seeing Mira's discomfort, the queen rises and demonstrates the dance herself, moving sensually and catching the king's interest. Abruptly, she backkicks the king off the balcony, killing him. Returning to her throne, she continues to scowl until Mira resumes dancing, which finally earns the queen's smile. The Colosseus reaches a peaceful settlement on the Indian subcontinent. The inhabitants, offering no resistance, present food as tribute to the queen. Unimpressed, she orders Keil to execute them. Instead, he carries the food aboard the ship. The queen, angered by his defiance, grabs his daughter's hair as warning. Reluctantly, Keil obeys, killing several townspeople. The act leaves him shocked, Spear regretful, and Fang furious as she returns to the ship in disgust. Later that night, Spear notices Keil shedding a tear. A guard enters with raw meat for the captives and bends to retrieve a piece that has fallen near Spear's cell. Spear slams the guard's head and takes his keys. He frees himself and Keil, though Keil refuses to leave. Spear ascends to the surface, climbs the masts, and reaches the throne room at the top of a tower. There, he finds Mira dancing for the queen, who keeps Fang's eggs and Keil's daughter beside her. Spear's intrusion triggers a fight in which he kills several guards and the queen's pet leopard. The queen proves a skilled, agile fighter. Amid the chaos, Mira seizes the eggs and Keil's daughter and flees. The battle moves to the deck where the eggs hatch, their chicks' cries summoning Fang. Overcome with maternal instinct, Fang smashes her cell and charges to the upper level. Spear exhausted from combat. The queen grabs the dinosaur chicks from Mira, while a guard seizes Keil's daughter. Keil arrives on deck, distraught to see both his daughter and the newborn dinosaurs still held captive, as the queen smirks at him. After a failed escape attempt, Ima orders Keil to execute the captives Spear, Mira, and Fang's offspring in front of her army and the young dinosaurs. Keil raises his axe, but recalls the first time he and his people encountered the queen. Keil and his people had been peaceful giants, living off herding and farming in their village. While two giants harvested corn, masked warriors armed with kopeshes and spears threatened the villagers. Keil tried to protect his daughter inside his hut. Fearing for her safety, he fought fiercely, killing many. In the chaos, he accidentally dropped her. The queen seized the child, forcing Keil to surrender. Back in the present, Keil brings his axe down, not on Spear or Fang, but on Fang's chains, freeing her. He throws his axe at Ima, who narrowly avoids it. Fang's offspring rush to her for a brief reunion. Spear breaks free by removing a stone embedded in the wood of his chains and using it as a weapon, killing nearby warriors. Mira frees Spear and grabs a bow and arrow. Keil's daughter runs to him, but Ima seizes her. Keil quickly retrieves her and carries her on his back. Ima turns her attention to a massive crossbow on her ship, intending to kill Fang. Keil heads below deck towards the ship's hull. Ima fires but misses when Fang ducks. She reloads for a second shot, but Spear intercepts her. Meanwhile, Keil finds his people enslaved as rowers. On deck, Spear battles Ima but is injured. An archer wounds Fang's red-striped offspring, making it cry out. Fang, enraged, charges into the archers attacking her. Mira grabs the injured chick, and Spear takes the other. Realizing the danger, and the five leap into the water. In the hull, guards attempt to stop Kamau, but he easily overpowers them, tossing some overboard. Inspired, one slave attacks an overseer, sparking a rebellion. The giants, led by Kamau, rise against their captors. From the water, Spear, Fang, Mira, and the young dinosaurs watch the revolt, then spot another ship. Spear boards it, kills the guards, and frees the slaves, who abandon ship. Ima gathers her remaining warriors, but the charging giants overwhelm and slaughter them. Kamau confronts Ima directly, swats her aside, and disarms her. Terrified, she struggles as he lifts her, carries her to the ship's edge, and throws her overboard to her death. The queen's mangled corpse crashes onto the deck, revealing Kamau as the one responsible. The five set sail together. Kamau shares a quiet moment with his daughter before spotting a burning figure on the horizon. The Viking chieftain, now a massive fire demon, pursuing Spear and Fang. We now go back into Spear's childhood. As a boy, he creates cave art alongside his father, the leader of a Neanderthal tribe. Their peaceful moment is shattered when a large pack of Smilodons attacks. Spear's father kills several, but is ultimately brought down and killed. Young Spear fights on, killing the remaining Smilodons. The tribe praises him and places his father's necklace around his neck, signifying his new role as leader. Spear wakes to Mira calling him, pointing out land ahead. He, Mira, Fang, and Fang's offspring disembark their ship and head inland. Mira breaks down crying, and Spear comforts her. A flashback reveals her husband was killed by Viking slavers before she was captured. While at sea, she freed herself with an axe and jumped overboard. That eventually led to meeting Spear and Fang. The group travels to the Genndy Plateau, spending the night in a cave. While Fang and her offspring sleep, Spear joins Mira in her nightly moon worship. The next morning, Fang wanders off and encounters Amara bathing, prompting a scream. Mira and Spear rush to investigate, and Mira joyfully reunites with Amara. Spear watches silently as they walk back to Mira's village, followed by Fang and her offspring. Villagers initially fear Spear and Fang, but Mira reassures them and gains their acceptance. That night, Spear sits by the campfire, eating and watching the villagers' cultural dance. Overwhelmed and feeling out of place, he leaves. Mira follows him and leads him to his new home in the village. Inside, Fang, her offspring, and Spear settle in, though Spear remains somber. That night, he creates a mural depicting his life, using his own blood for parts of it. The mural shows Mira and Fang with their families, but himself alone to the side. The next day, Mira finds the completed mural and understands his sense of isolation. The Viking chieftain, now imbued with fire powers by the fire giant, tracks down Spear and Fang attacking the village. Spear and Fang confront him, but are forced to retreat up a mountain. Cornered, they are both set aflame. Fang extinguishes herself, but Spear charges the chieftain, tackling him down the mountainside and pummeling him. The attack is futile, as Spear is fatally burned while the chieftain dragged back underground by the fire giant. Mira and the tribe recover Spear, bringing him home. The shaman tends to him, but realizes he will soon die. Fang and her offspring cry out in grief and leave. Alone with Spear, Mira sees his mural again and understands his longing for family. Knowing he has little time left and wanting to carry on his legacy, she climbs onto him and they have sex. Spear dies soon afterward. Years later, Fang and her now adult offspring remain in the village. Spear and Mira's daughter, now a teenager riding one of Fang's offspring,